science students, and now we are going to continue with justice. As you may be knowing regarding the justice, the word justice is derived from Latin word jungere, to bind or to tie together. You may be knowing about when you are going to think about justice. In your mind there would be like a picture of blindfolded woman holding a balance in her hand. Then you may be thinking, what is the meaning of justice? Why justice is so big important issue in today's world, in today's political thinking? Then whenever there was a conflict in the world, there was always shouting and sloganing for getting justice. हमें न्याय चाहिए. So let us start how justice derived from which part of the world, and what its meaning. The word justice is derived from Latin word jungere, to bind together, and just means bond or tie. As a joining idea, justice combines people together in a right or fair order of relationship by distributing to each person his or her due share of rights and duties, rewards and punishments. It is a balance or reconciling between liberty, equality. It can be related to Indian concept of dharma ya swadharma. You now try to understand. Justice talks about binding together. It talks about fair treatment. It talks about distributing something according to the needs of the people, according to due share. Whichever is required for you should be given to you in terms of your duties, maybe in terms of your rights. For example, people in India demands for their rights. They demand for their housing, they demand for their electricity, they how much demand should be fulfilled. That's all depend on what type of justice we procuring in the contemporary world. Then justice becomes a very simply you can understand in Indian term, that reconcile between liberty and equality. It's balance something. Justice should be given to each one of us. It is not a privilege of particular caste or class or particular human being. It is a concept which is universal, should be given to each one of us, and it is a very you can say concept without which we cannot have our individual life. Then what we want to see, the word justice derived from Latin word jungure, and they bind together as as a whole universal concept. It is a potential concept in politics. It is closely associated with in our day-to-day activity. We relate with religious activity, then morality. We talked about justfulness. We talk about fairness. We talk about virtue. We talk about dharma. We relate it to everyday activity, that liberty, equality, how much liberty you should be given, how much due you should be given, how much of punishment you should be given for your criminal activity, how should you receive something as a due process. Then the most fascinating work in today's world, in 1971, maybe in political science, theory of political science, John Rawls wrote the idea of justice, his book Theory on Justice, and he tried to say that the nature and aim of a perfectly just society, just न्यायिक samaj, maybe just society, is the fundamental part of the theory of justice. Everyone in this world wanted to create a justful society. Justful society. In every society, there is a different concept of justice, which is based on its history, its custom, its tradition. That means that Every society has a different type of idea of justice. The justice prevailing in America may not be equalized to justice prevailing in India. Maybe justice propagated in the society of Middle East, maybe Saudi Arabia, cannot be implied in India, because we have a different type of history, we have a different type of custom, and we have different type of tradition. And it is the basis of determining right and wrong in that society. We have to relate justice to our own society. How can we justful? Every system is governed by certain norms, values. Those values can be based on morality, ethics, justice, dharma, adharma. That dharma, adharma do believe in working of a society, which change according to the time and circumstances. If you will relate justice, for example, we were many years back when we were thinking justice was confined to caste system. But when we get independence, then we became independent. Then we have decided that we should be thinking about our Indian society in a different manner. Then we talked we should stop untouchability. By stopping untouchability, which was a practice or is a value in older traditional society, ancient society of India, we tried to give justice to those unprivileged classes. So justice, you can say, is a dynamic potential concept. It can change any time. It changes with the time and circumstances. For example, in Indian case, the concept of, you can say, the concept of sati pratha was there. People were thinking they were giving justice to the woman who lost a husband. But when we decided to be modern state, we decided to modern state, then we found that this not only violates our rights of women, that also take away the rights as a civil citizen of India. Then we tried to stop that sati pratha as illegal. Then what is justice? You can is a very umbrella like term, is a very big concept, is a concept which changes with the dynamic change of time and circumstances according to the custom tradition. And justice, you can say, what is justice? Justice is a, you can say, is a concept which have many values combined together. When you will think about justice, in your mind, you will find a statue of justice. What this statue of justice says? The statue of justice says that this is the statue with blindfolded. What is blindfolded? She is blindfolded because she needs to be impartial. Justice is something related to your impartiality. Of course, she needs to impartial. But I wonder how then does he see the special needs of the people? Then how the equity can be established? The idea comes like this. We should be impartial by becoming impartial in the sense we have to take care of the people without having our preconceived notion of justice. Somebody who is in the position to judge should be very impartial. He should not be inclined towards his own religious people, maybe own clan or race or sex or place of birth, any apprehension. He should be impartial. In that sense, justice becomes a very difficult humanly idea. Let us go to the next slide. Justice delayed, you may be heard, justice delayed is justice denied. Why do they show that? Because if a decision in the dispute is delayed too long, the injured person may not receive any benefit from the judicial proceedings. What would be the use of getting a decision in one's favor after one is dead? Then there was, for example, in India, justice used to take place for 10 years, maybe 20 years. By the time you get 10 years, 20 years, you lose the validity of your life. Then that's the reason justice should be given to everyone on time. And justice should be available to each and every person. There are many quotes. I was wondering what type of quotes I should give to you to understand the concept of justice. Justice, Mary Wollstonecraft, when you'll go into the third year, you'll study Mary Wollstonecraft, who talked about feminism. She said it is justice, not charity. There is a difference between justice and charity. This is one thing in the world. Everybody required justice. And without justice, somebody said, without justice and love and peace will always be a great illusion. Then mighty will be the right. Then who will procure justice for the weaker section, for the poor, for the people who are contented, who want to remain peaceful? Justice should not be in the hand of one particular individual. Like monarchy was there. Monarchy, during monarchical period, justice was dispatched or procured by monarch only. Monarch was the superpower. For today's world, in a modern democratic world, yesterday we were discussing democracy. We talked about democratic idea can nurture independent judiciary. In a democratic society, independent judiciary can only dispatch justice. The law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. This is the Martin Luther King's idea. He said, you know, the apartheid regime going on in black movement going on in America in 1960s. The law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice. The law, the orders going on in the society should always aim to purpose, always a purpose to establish just order. Then only we can have social progress. Main idea of political science is to bring social progress in the society. And always who is the ruler, maybe elite classes, should always have a characteristics of justfulness. We always think that there should be, we should always think about justful people. So why we love a politician who have a good nature, who are justful in their way. They do not define or distinguish or differentiate people on the basis of their choice. The dimension of justice is what I hope you understood. The concept of justice is about, you can say, is a just, is a binding together, is a nature, is a reconciliation between liberty. It is talking, justice is talks about due share, rights and duties, rewards and punishment, is a balance or reconciliation between liberty and equality. It can be related to Indian concept of dharma and shodharma, whatever you identify in your life. Sometime you in your family life you have a fight between your brothers and sisters, and there your parents work as a judge. They come, they intervene, they try to reconcile between you, they give you due share. ठीक है? Then let us go to the next concept, which is called dimension of justice. How, what type of nature, what types of, there were many types of justice. There's a legal justice, there's social justice, there are economic justice, civil justice. There are many types, and you can say there is this definition of justice. First, we'll go to the procedural part, that is called legal justice. Legal justice is related to lawmaking process. It's simple. It talks about lawmaking process, the judicial system. It talks about it denotes law should be reasonable and each one should get justice according to the law. For example, everyone in India have a fundamental right to procure, to get free education till the age of 14. Then there is a legality exists in that fundamental justice, that anyone on the basis of race, caste, sex, gender, place of birth, there would be no distinction. It denotes that the process says that, the judicial system says that if you are Indian, you should be given with that justice to free education. That is your due. For example, Indian states say your life should be protected. You have a civil right to have life. If you have any threat, then you must go and communicate to the government. Then you will be given with due help. Justice is something the society wanted to give help to somebody who are in requirement. Justice denotes law should be reasonable. What reasonable? Tarkic is the word tark. You use that should not be biased. We justice should not be dispatched with biasness. It talks about reasonableness. It talks about fairness. It talks about each one should get justice according to the law, rule of law. That rule should, the law should be made by this, by the rules written in the constitution, written in any convention. That rule should not be, you can say, it means that there should be proper procedure of law. For example, we have decided that after the matriculation will go to +2, then graduation. That is the procedure of law. You can get and fetch a graduation certificate. Likewise, there are proper procedure of law. For example, there is a civil case, there is a dispute between your family regarding the farmland. Then you have to approach the civil court in the district. Then you have to go to approach the High Court. Then you can go to the Supreme Court. If the judgment is, you are not satisfied with the judgment in the High Court, then there should be proper procedure of law. The justice should reach poorest of poor. It should not be privilege of one particular class. That's why if there would be dispute for anyone, if you are not able to find a judge for you, lawyer for yourself, maybe government can provide you with a lawyer. You should be asked, you want a lawyer? Then if you are not able to, then government can provide you with a lawyer. And the justice should reach poorest of poor. Secondly, court should be independent. This is the most important aspect of justice, is that that court should be always independent. Independence says that court should not be controlled in a democracy by in the legislature, maybe privileged class, maybe elite class. If there would be biasness in the court, then some one particular group may hold the idea of justice in their own hand. They will play politics. So judge who is a very becoming independent is a very basic aspect of legal justice. Being impartial also, it's also says that impartial also is a very importantness. Then there should not be biasness. The executive should not control the judiciary in that sense. Judiciary must have its own independentness. I hope you understood the idea of justice now. Justice is something, is a process. Is a process with a reason. Is a process where you say poorest of poor can get justice and there should not be control of justice, control by any executive or judiciary or religious group to define justice. Justice should be always based on impartiality, is a fairness, nishpaksha. Then next, let us is a very important aspect, what we call social justice. Social, society, whatever we are making now is a complete politics, is based on society. Social issues. We are living in a political community. And social justice is an issue concerned with substantial justice. If you say that we are maintaining procedures, we are going due process, is not enough. We said that the justice should reach poorest of poor. It means availability of equal social opportunity for everyone. The social opportunity should be equally distributed. The social justice is at all related to your distributive justice given by Aristotle many years back. That if you have some due, then you should be given with that due. And for that, the government should do some certain things. That government should not discriminate to dispatch justice on the basis of caste, color, sex, race, place of birth. In that sense, government should develop a network of social network where there should not be discrimination. No one should be deprived on the basis of those regionalness, maybe your color, maybe your caste, maybe your race, place of birth. No one should be deprived because this difference to those social conditions which are essential for the development of human personality. Your without certain justice, your human personality will not grow. You will not be considered as human being. Then at least the justice has a social dimension where people should be distributed of their dues not according to their social existence but according to their needs. Maybe egalitarian people say egalitarianism, as we already discussed maybe in the equality chapter, each according to the need. The government should distribute the due, the goods and services, the punishment. There should not be based on any privilege of that kind. Then let us go to the idea, you can say, idea of economic justice. is one of the most important aspect today's world. Maybe economic justice is viewed two dimension. People of liberal and Marxist. Liberals are advocating procedural justice, which we already discussed in legal justice. That says that the procedure should be followed. If you are procuring or you are acquiring some property with due process, with fair means, nobody has the right to take away that property or goods and services from you. If you have maintained some procedure. While neoliberals and libertarians like Nozick are against any type of progressive tax. For example, you are very efficient teacher. You are efficient businessman. You are earning according to your efficiency. You are working day and night hard to increase your property. And you are working with due process. You are not harming anyone. You are working hard. You should be supposed to be given with the salary. You should be given with a remuneration. And liberal, neoliberal, those are libertarian like Nozick says, government has no right to levy tax even on those people who are hard earning, who have efficiency, who are working hard. Because they are working hard, they're earning more through a fair means, according to the procedure written in the Constitution. And there should not be tax, there should not be progressive tax, there should not be levied upon efficient individual who is earning more through fair means. And just opposite to the neo-liberals, libertarians, Marxist says that without the abolition of private property, a capitalistic mode of production, exploitation of a worker cannot end. And the economic justice cannot be provided to the masses or labor class. What Marxist says that Marxism is an alternative way of looking at the society. It says that economy is the base, and others are superstructure. All the relation is based on economic values. Is based people who have more control over mode of production have a right over all the workers. Marx says economic justice with the mode of production. He says economic justice can be procured if we will nationalize the mode of production by abolishing private property. In an utopian stage, Marxist society reaches to a classless and stateless society. Marx's vision of economic justice wanted to create a classless and stateless society. Classless is that means their bourgeois class, the capitalistic class, should be abolished. And there would be only one class, working class. And there will be distribution according to the needs of the people. And everyone there should work and accordingly paid. This is what economic justice talks about. Economic justice talked about distribution should happen according to the according to the contribution to the society. There are many dimensions of justice. And you can say the most important according to your syllabus is what is procedural justice? As we discussed that legal justice, that justice should maintain some decorum, some procedure, that you can say procedural justice refers to the fairness in the process. Everything should happen according to the process. That to resolve civil, criminal dispute, maybe allocation of resources, everything should happen according to due process. And distribution should happen due to the duties and responsibility. That should not happen that I like your color of skin, I'll dispatch some reward to you. That is not justice. Procedural justice says the fairness in process. People should be allocated resources, goods and services. For example, if I will discriminate in the class between between tall and handsome, maybe good looking girls and boys, that will ruin my justfulness as teacher. So simply saying that I should, being a teacher, I should not discriminate. I should resolve dispute amongst the student with a very impartial and you can say very independent manner. I am open to that service to each one of us who are student in SOL. I have to distribute my knowledge as my responsibility. I should be fair enough. I should be transparent. I should not discriminate between the people who are wealthier, were coming in cars, maybe, or maybe something like your looks. That procedural justice demands fairness in implementation of law. So that you should be fair, that you should go with some sequence. Sequence says linear relation, that step ahead step we have to progress. Because the main motive of any type of political concept is social progress. How we can progress as society, as a political community. The procedural justice says that there should be fairness is implementing of law. There should be in the procedures. We have to keep the procedures. In Indian case, maybe you can relate it to नीति. आप नीति के हिसाब से चलते हो. You go with the procedure of law. That is the law written in a law book. And the justice you can relate it to nyaya. You just try to find out what is nyaya and niti. Niti is something related to procedural justice. If you are naitik ho, you are going along with the according to the law written in a book. your lawfulness, obeying. You must obey in that sense. Everybody should be treated. For example, if you talk about nitis, that is procedure, you have to follow certain procedure. For example, you are sitting a student completing graduation, then you are sitting in an examination called UPSC. Then we have to go according to the procedure. First, we have to qualify for preliminary, then mains, then there will be interview, then will be a training session, there will be probation. That is called about procedure. You have to follow certain procedure. You cannot just skip some procedure and reach to the top level. As I said, you have to first go and attain the class 1, then class 2, then 10, and then you can go and approach college as you are studying now. Then procedural justice said everybody should go according to the justful manner. Anybody, whether that is a politician, whether that is a richest of rich man, everybody should follow a procedure. That's a fair means of reaching somewhere. You may be distinguished between fair and unfair means. Reaching through an unfair means that says that you are not following a procedure. And everybody in procedural justice, that everybody should be treated as an innocent till the time he or she is found guilty. For example, you have done a criminal case, maybe civil case. You approached the state and till that criminality is proved, you should be treated as innocent. If something is due, we always say, give your views on this point. I say, no, this is a matter of judiciary. This is a matter of sub judice. I'll not discuss this because it's under trial. Who I am supposed to give a viewpoint? If maybe somebody is innocent, I don't know. It's depend on the evidence. It's depend on the circumstances of availability of evidence. Somebody can be innocent. It's the work of lawyers to prove someone innocent and prove someone guilty. Till somebody found guilty, we should treat them as innocent. This is the procedural part of justice. And it is very important in a modern democracy, in a modern political society. Everybody should follow procedure of justice. And in that way, nobody can be punished for same crime twice. For example, we have done some mistake and again we are under trial and that mistake is being proven. Maybe we are given with 14 years of jail here in High Court. Then somebody went to Supreme Court. Already that 14 years have been passed. The court has no right to send the man again as to the jail. Because justice delayed is justice denied, as we have already discussed it. Justice, you can say, says about availability of justfulness to everyone, poorest of poor. Everyone, everybody has a right to defend him or herself. And here I'll say that's maybe the reason government provide poorest of poor with a government lawyer. We have in our preamble, we have justice as the basic value. And in there, we talked about impartial, independent judiciary. And in there also, we have said that people should be treated alike. That means equal case should be treated equally. That there should be citation of one particular case. People cite according to the Allahabad court, maybe according to the judgment of Supreme Court, this case, like that, like this, cited. The procedure in that sense should be similar. And equal people should be treated equally. All the parties in that sense should follow the procedure, should be fair, should be open to all. If there is a trial, you must have a right to go and sit. You can hear what is going on. All the parties in dispute must be heard before any judgment is delivered. You may have seen a court scene in Hindi films, movies. The judgment is delivered after hearing up to disputing parties, maybe 3 disputing parties. That there should not be biasness. Everyone has a right to prove themselves innocent according to the evidence. All the parties in dispute must be heard before any judgment is delivered. This is what justice talks about: balancing, reconciling, proving innocent as innocent and guilty as guilty. If you talk about Indian context, maybe Gandhi, that's the reason, said, should be impartial. Truth is always impartial. You can view truth from different point of view, maybe different angle, but truth will be same. Then, if you will follow the procedure of justice, then you can also see that the parties in dispute must be heard. That judgment, the hearing should be open. There should not be secret justice. We already discussed yesterday's class that justice should be like viewing all the parties in dispute must be heard before any judgment is delivered. Next, most important part of justice is substantive justice. What is substantive? We just, in the last paragraph, last PPT, we already discussed about procedure. Procedure says formal, legal, according to the written value of law. But substantive justice says is associated with morality, ethics, which is higher type of philosophy. Here, litigants who are demanding justice are protected from procedural error of litigation. That whosoever demanding a substantive justice should be protected first. There can be poor, there can be physically challenged, there can be women, there can be child labor who are asking for rescue, asking for justice. There can be Dalit, Ati Dalit group. The substantial justice say about fair treatment along with fair distribution. It is related to distributive justice. As we already discussed, is talking about distributive justice. The substantive justice is associated with the moral aspect. Naitikta, Manavikta. That is the Indian context you may relate into. The substantial justice says about fair trial along with fair distribution. Substantive theory of justice above the fair distribution of goods like wealth, income, opportunity to all people, despite of their different social position or economic status, is a very, very important aspect of justice. There should be fair distribution of goods. People demand job. People demand of opportunity. People demand there should be basic amenities available. Water system should be there. Healthcare should be there. During the COVID-19, we were demanding health safety. That everyone should get opportunity despite their social position and economic status. That is what a substantive justice says. It says that the distribution of good like wealth, income, opportunity to all people should be distributed according to certain norm. The rich should not get everything. And poor should at least get some amount of basic amenities. Nature has always created such situations. Substantive justice, you can say Tatvik Nyay. In the procedure, you reach according to the formalities. But in substance, you have to go deep and take equality is there. Everybody able to reach to the equal opportunity, developmental norms. Everyone is getting good health. All people, despite their different social background, are getting food, clear air. Substantive justice is a part of welfare measure creating positive attitude of the government. Substantive justice is equally emphasized on fair principle of distribution. Its objective is to establish a just social system. When we talk about social system, that says that social system by ensuring fair distribution of goods. It is opposite to procedural justice. It is not about formality. It is not about legality. It is about demanding positive intervention of the state to create an environment where fair distribution can happen. Everybody should get services. For example, when we talk about distribution of milk in the milk dairy, that you are rich, you are coming with a car, you should be given with that much milk, you demand? No. Everybody will come in a queue. That is a substantive justice, procurement of justice. We have to create a social system based on fair distribution. It should be, and the criteria should be based on reasonableness, tarkic. It is opposite to what is written in the book of law, what may be written in that logical science of jurisprudence. You have to behave in certain manner to distribute justice in each and everyone living in the society, poorest of poor. And substantive justice talk about just social system. What is just social system? Maybe in your sense, from the student who is studying graduation may have seen that society, Indian traditional society is full of with caste system. But here untouchability was there. We have abolished that untouchability. And we brought some amount different idea of protective discrimination, affirmative action to uplift one class which was being exploited from last many years. Many years, maybe 1,000 years, we are practicing untouchability. And in that way, you can say substantive justice is very much related to the idea of social justice. Justice should be given to socially differently able class which were considered as weaker section for many centuries back. By creating a legal book, it cannot happen. We have to go and uplift some group to certain level. It's related to equity, samata. You can bring the weaker or certainly backward class to a certain level, then you can create a competitive atmosphere. And all these ideas of justice, you can say, is well written in John Rawls' book on theory of justice. And this theory of justice is being later written by, criticized, written, reviewed by two of his students, Robert Nozick and Amartya Sen. Robert Nozick, as we studied in the last PPT, talked about neoliberal concept of justice. And Amartya Sen is talking about developmental aspect of justice. Amartya Sen's theory of justice also is a pioneer in the science of justice. And let us have a look on John Rawls' justice. John Rawls is a socialistic, democratic, liberal writer who wrote the book in 1971, A Theory of Justice. Rawls started with the statement that justice is the first virtue of social institution. He said that good society is one structured according to the principle of justice. Rawls assert that existing theory of justice developed in the field of philosophy are not adequate.
Ma'am, your voice is not coming. Hello, Shakti ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Shakti,
Yes.
now your voice is clear. Now you're audible.
Yes.
Oh, okay, go on.
The things are visible.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, wait a minute. I'd suggest you to take these chats also in between your lectures. There are students who are asking few questions.
Yeah, I'll take care of them after I complete the lecture.
You can you can take 5 minutes in between also.
Okay.
You can take 5 minutes in between also.
Okay.
Okay, whatever you feel like, you do that. But address those queries.
Okay. I have already cleared those queries, I think, last class. In a theory of justice, as we discussed, that in a theory of justice, Rawls started with the statement that justice is the first virtue of social institution, meaning that the good society is one structured according to the principle of justice. Rawls assert that existing theory of justice developed in the field of philosophy are not adequate. What may, for example, if you go back to the political philosophy, you can see justice is defined from the idea of Plato. Then it is Socrates started the conversation of justice, then Plato, then Aristotle, then Locke, many of them. They always discussed about justice. My guiding aim in that sense, what John Rawls says, my guiding aim is to work out a theory of justice that is a viable alternative to this doctrine which can long dominated our philosophical tradition. And it is true that after John Rawls wrote in 1971, there was no such book came which is so superior in nature in political science. It's one of the best book written by John Rawls in A Theory of Justice. He calls this theory aimed at formulating a conception of the basic structure of society in accordance with social justice as fairness. Justice, his main concept was justice as fairness. And then you can say Rawls suggests to develop a theory of justice by reviewing the social contract tradition. Here is the idea of social contract. I said the idea of social contract came back from the Lockean view, maybe a view of Locke, Hobbes and Rousseau. Rawls suggested to develop a theory of justice by reviewing the social contract tradition of theorizing about justice related with 17th century and 18th century writers such as John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Immanuel Kant. Locke realized legitimate political authority as deriving from the free and voluntary consent of governed, from a contract or agreement between governor and governed person. Rawls stated that he will take social contract idea to higher level of abstraction. When you'll go to the third year, you will study how the main aspect of political science to understand why this political community is being created. What are the way, what we were doing when there was a hunter-gatherer society. Then Rawls stated that is called social contract theory. We came together, we created a society to live in together. Rawls stated that justice is what free and equal person would agree to as basic terms of social cooperation. As we said in the first PPT, we said it is a binding in nature, is a formula which binds us together to behave in fair and reasonable manner, having a purpose in life. This idea he called justice as fairness. And the condition that Rawls take to most appropriate for the choice of principle of justice constitute original position. He says in an original position, nobody will be knowing nobody. There will be a situation of hypothetical situation where everybody will be under a veil of ignorance. If you want really to dispatch justice, then you have to be blindfolded. You have to remain in ignorance to dispatch justice as fairness. And Rawls interpreted the tax to be choosing principle for a well-ordered society, a society that is effectively regulated by a public conception of justice and whose members understand and give loyalty to this public conception. That says that in a well-ordered society that is effectively regulated by the public conception of justice, members should have a respect for the consent of others. They should live with certain rules and regulation. Then John Rawls had given 3 principles of justice. It's a very important to understand the lineal effect of the law. There are 3 laws and says that John Rawls' theory says, John Rawls' theory says, justice presents a strong defense of idea of justice based on the basic tenet of procedural theory. He says, in a society that is liberal, democratic, should meticulously follow the rules you have to obey the rules. If you want a just society, you have to follow the procedure of rules meticulously, religiously. And in this situation, as he was from the social contract tradition, social contract says you have to make a contract. For success of the contract, you should be always taking the contract ahead by participating in the contract, as Rousseau said in Popular Sovereignty. Likewise, John Rawls says meticulously you have to follow the rules. He combined the idea of procedure along with the substance of the justice. Even in this situation, unjust condition might be created because every individual is not the same individual. Every individual will be different. In this situation, unjust condition might be created. In order to avoid this, Rawls suggested that certain condition we have to hold the basic idea of distributive justice. We have to be simply create a situation where unjust condition should be eradicated. Then he wrote the idea, the three principles. I'll say it that equally linear way. Linear way means you have to read it according to 1, 2, 2A and B. You have to go with the sequence. He said so, and then only his idea of Kazakhstan can be established, where he is implying global justice maybe. In the principle of justice, Rawls argues that each person is to have an equal right to the most extensive liberty compatible with similar liberty to others. Just try to read again. Each person is to have an equal right. He's talking about equality here. The most extensive liberty. As I am saying, he is from liberal tradition. He is not a Marxist. He is from liberal tradition. He definitely be giving liberty. And he tried to compatibility, reconciliation with equality and liberty. For example, you demand a notes from me. Then equally, I will say, I want a class test from you. That should be mutual. As much as you demand the help, I also demand the equal amount of help from you to make you educate. For example, you want a break, you want freedom from your class. Then equally, I can also demand similar type of liberty from my side. That is equality. That should be compatibility. Compatibility between equality I demand and you demand. The liberty you demand and you demand, I demand. There should be equality of liberty. I wanted a freedom of religion. Then you should be given with that freedom too. I want to conserve my culture. You should be also given with to conserve your culture. Yesterday in democratic value, we studied live, let others live. The idea of multiculturalism maybe. the idea of compatibility of equality and liberty. Social and economic inequalities are to be arranged so that they are both to the greatest benefit of least advantaged and attached to the office. Look, in the 2A. 2A says the social and economic inequality are to be arranged so that they are both to the greatest benefit of the least advantaged group. You just imagine such situation. Is completely a hypothetical situation in front of you. That social economic inequalities will be definitely be existing in society, that he observes, that he knows, because it's a liberal capitalistic world. Social and economic inequality will be definitely be there. But those social economic inequality to be arranged so that they are both to be benefited to the least advantaged group. At least minimum amount of something should go and reach to the least advantaged group. You just imagine the Gandhi's idea of talisman. गांधी का दरिद्रतम व्यक्ति तक पहुंचना चाहिए, उसी तरह से you just think about John Rawls' idea. The society must do something, give justice some way which can reach to the least advantaged group. And attached to the office and positions open to all under condition of fair equality and opportunity. And here the condition attached to the office and position. He's talking about political positions, other position and offices should be open to all under the condition of fair equality and opportunity. That everybody should get opportunity to work as or he or she wants to join. Nobody should be there. Family lineage should not happen. May be monarchical government should be denied. Should be feudalism should be denied. A theory of justice, Rawls argue for a principled reconciliation of liberty and equality. And Rawls offer a model of fair choice situation. The original position with its veil of ignorance, that the same blindfolded veil of ignorance is a screen between you and the society exists. You will not know who is good looking, who is fair, who is tall. You will render justice behind the veil, knowing nothing about others. In there, you have to first distribute to greatest benefit of the least advantaged group. Within which parties would hypothetically choose mutually accept principle of justice. Then you can go to the idea critics of Rawls' theory of justice. The main critics are their own student. Robert Nozick has criticized socialistic liberal version of justice and proposed the entitlement theory. He said that why to distribute among us we have a hard-earned money and there will be economic inequality. Why everyone should be given with progressive tax? Everyone should be given with own entitlement. And state should not intervene. There should be minimal state, as Nozick said. But Rawls said there should be intervention. That should be intervention of the state to distribute, arrange so that both greatest benefit of least advantage group. In a theory of justice, Rawls argues for a principled reconciliation of liberty and justice, equality, which is completely criticized by the neoliberal Robert Nozick. Then another person, Robert Paul Wolff, wrote Understanding Rawls, a critique and reconstruction, a theory of justice. He criticized him from Marxist point of view. Problems, he said, embedded in capitalistic social relationship and private property and market system. And that system should be changed. As all the Marxists will always perceive, there should be reconstruction, recreation. There should be alternative way to procure or give justice. This egalitarian criticize Rawls emphasize on primary social goods. Utilization of those goods should be channelized for the just life, for the disadvantaged group. And in that way, John Rawls emphasized on socially and economically disadvantaged group. And egalitarians criticize that in a situation of capitalistic mode, how can you render justice? One cannot render justice, able to render justice. Then in the next page, the idea of global justice is being defined. It's a very basic idea of justice. The issue of global justice is a very new issue. You can say in the post-World War II. Justice is a vision, is a very, you can say, is theoretical vision. It talks about that democratic or says ultra democratic world should happen, and global justice is a vision. Is work to promote greater cooperation among the nation state. Global justice supports belief that there possibly we all are collective owner of the earth, that global justice can view a cosmopolitan world. You just imply the idea of justice in global world order. Whatever we discussed in the last 20 PPTs, they say that we are talking about justice in completely national level. But now the idea goes to new level that is called global justice. As we know about the idea of globalization, talks about global village or death of distance. We talk about rise of communication. The similarly we are looking now at global epidemics. You are talking about global pandemics going on, COVID-19. Likewise, global justice support and believes that poverty and global equality are not inevitable but are maintained by unfair political economic systems backed by military forces which is being created by state. The similarly you can say created by bourgeois class. Though we are collective owner of the earth, some people are richer, some people are poor, some people are developed, some people are undeveloped, some people are very big, rich, wealthy person, some people are not. Then in that way, how can global justice will work? The society is divided between north and south. Society is divided between east and west. Society is divided between core and periphery. Core developed, established, consolidated democratic nations are European nations, America. They are the nation of wealthy MNCs, and another is a third world country who are undeveloped. They have less of economic capacity. In that sense, how can justice be given? Can human beings demand justice as people of the world? Then the idea of global perspective is connected to justice is a very infant stage, it's nascent stage. These movements are not very powerful. They believe in collective ownership of the earth. They support global justice, defense, human rights, and cosmopolitanism. They say people of the whole world should be given with some amount of justice. They should get rid of, you can say, poverty. And you can say global justice works to promote greater cooperation within the broader movement of global justice. They want to mobilize resources, want to bring changes in the structure of the government. They want to available the know-how of technology to the south, that is called third world countries. They want to give some amount of their money as aid to third world countries. There exists a linkage between nations and people as we are the common owner of one particular earth. If we are ever increasing the rich and poor in a globalized world, the global justice supporter envisages a world where the worth of every human being is affirmed. Nobody is rich and poor. We all are global citizens. Global justice talks about global governance. The governance where poverty, global inequality are to be managed as a global activity. As we are collectively owner of the earth, likewise, it is inevitable to render justice, which is fairness, to each and every one. They believe in collective ownership of the earth. They believe in cosmopolitan belief that global inequality and poverty can definitely be managed by the global citizen. Then the idea of global justice is being again viewed in the idea of John Rawls in the year 1999, the law of peoples. The idea of global justice desires redistribution of global wealth between all the living beings of the world, irrespective of different nationality, caste, color, culture, ideology. Its slogan is that Earth and all its resources are collectively owned by the whole humanity. Let us go to the last conclusion part. Then John Rawls talked about principle of global justice. Global justice talks about that there are irrespective of different nationality, we should collectively take care of the problems coming in the way, like poverty, disease. You can say the difference between the north and south may be lessened by the intervention of the people. The people belongs to here what Thomas Pogge maybe extended the idea of law of people of John Rawls he said that wealth between all the living being of the world should be shared by all, the shared vision of the all. Then he talked about the distribution of economic distribution that completely related to substantive part of the justice. You can say the substantive way of justice that says that the moral standing of individual is based on some moral character of individual. We share it irrespective of our nationality and culture. Whether individual comes from India, whether he comes from America, he comes from UK, we all share this globe and we all should share the resources the globe provide us as collectively by whole humanity. And every human being has his moral standing. The boundary between nations and culture should be irrelevant. And therefore, as I wrote, those cosmopolitan view. Rawls given is the idea of cosmopolitan view that every human being has a moral standing. For example, the idea of anti-global movements going on. They are talking about globalization of communication of people. They are talking about the restructuring of World Trade Organization, the restructuring of International Monetary Fund. That global justice movement claims to place significant emphasis on transnational solidarity. What do you mean by transnational solidarity? Between intergovernmental solidarity. For example, why nations during COVID-19 and sending relief material to each other? They are sharing medicines. They are sharing technology to how to get rid of this disease. That says that We are the people of the globe, irrespective of our nationality. And our moral judgment should be like that. We should take care of the problems of others as a race of human being. We should take care of the problems coming in the, we should take care of the disease, the sufferings, the deprivation of the people as part of humanity. And going out of the idea of national level of justice, it do not talk about procedures. It do not talk about ethics written in any book, rule of law, or jurisprudence. It talks about morality to help who is in a problem. Because ultimately, the problem, the globe, is shared by us. Rawls has given this view on global justice in the book The Law of Peoples. The idea of global justice, in that sense, a living being should not be differentiated on the basis of their nationality. It has a multidimensional process. For example, global justice movement have 4 different kind of waves. The people who are demanding global justice, they want to give monetary justice to each and everyone there in the society. They were talking about social justice. For example, they want the World Bank, the the International Monetary Foundation should be restructured. And another movement which is empowering the idea of global justice is the environmental justice movements. Greenpeace, the movement that says we all sharing the globe, then we are global citizens. And justice that should be rendered to each one of us. The significantly, मैडम माइक ऑफ कर देंगे क्या? The global justice movement.
माइक ऑफ नहीं करना मैम.
आप कर दीजिए, मैं नहीं कर रही हूँ. आपका
you have ended the class?
नहीं.
Okay मैम.
The global justice movement describes laws of collection of individual and group, often referred as a movement of movements, that is called anti-global movement. The term further indicate they were also anti-capitalistic movement. The movement says the capitalistic all over the world who are running the MNCs are significantly should render justice. They should have social responsibility, corporate social responsibility to render justice to each one of us. The moral standing of individual is based on some moral character. And these characteristics are shared by all humans because the multinational companies are doing business in the society which is shared by all of us. So those companies who are running industries are using the resources, natural resources, which is global in nature. They are exploiting their national resources. That's why they should be taken care of the problems coming in the way of production or distribution. For example, the multinational companies are using the resources of water from the reservoir which is underground of India or anywhere else, and they should give return back something to the society. And then the idea of sustainable development comes. Then let us go to the topic, that is global justice movement. That is, you can otherwise called global social movement, which is opposing the idea of corporate globalization that's today going on. Then let us go back to the idea of justice, how you can render, and the idea of global justice, you can say not visibly possible, because there will be no binding effect as it is there in case of uh, the procedural justice given by the nation or state. Because when you talk about demand about justice in nation state, then there will be independent judiciary to take care about your justice. You, if fundamental rights are being violated, then you will be definitely be approaching it to court. But is there any binding effect of international judiciary there in case of global justice? Some government, some state which are powerful may not bindingly listen to uh, the idea of demand of justice. So the idea of cosmopolitan justice lack in binding effect. And in case of justice, we have to take care about some binding issue. We have to someone to look after how punishment should be given, how something should be approached, how one victim can be given reward, how somebody should be reconciliation between the issues or demands. Then in that sense, we can renew that global justice cannot be implied in today's world, because today's world is full of inequality, and there is no global authority of one particular issue. For example, United Nations may be taking some issues, some super states, super power may not hear the instruction, as for example, they have given some instruction to obey the law of environment. They do not hear it, and now we are suffering of such pandemic. And in that sense, the word justice you can in combines together and distribute to each person is not possible. The idea of global justice is very nascent in that sense. We are still debating on that. Then next, we have already discussed what is justice. Justice is a very dynamic potential concept in politics. Next, how to conceptualize justice. We have already discussed this idea. What is the statue of justice says she's blindfolded. Why she is blindfolded? Because of impartiality. There should be impartiality in the justice delivery system, and the justice delivery system should based on quick form. Yeah, fast track courts are new invention in the world. People should be given or dispatched with just justice very soon. The justice delayed is justice denied. And justice talks about law and order. It exists for the purpose of establishing justice. When they fail in this purpose, they become dangerous. that there should be justice should not be one privileged class, it should be impartial. Then we have discussed about the dimension of justice, the legal justice. Legal justice is related to lawmaking. Specifically, lawmaking is the main issue of legal justice. It denotes law should be reasonable, is based on reason, logic, and there should not be biasness. It means that there should be proper procedure of law. The justice should be rendered to poorest of poor. This should not be privileged of one particular class. For example, during feudal period, it was with feudal lords. During monarchical period, justice was only confined to the monarchical class. During a jamidari system, it was with jamidars. And now it is in democracy, it is with the rule of law. Then social justice is an issue concerned with substantial justice. It means availability of equal social opportunity, and opportunity in that sense should not be confined to one particular class, caste, or caste culture. Then, for example, opportunity should not be only received by only poorer of strata or higher class of the society. That should be given equally distributed. No one should be deprived in that sense because of the difference to those social conditions which are essential for the development of human personality. It is associated with the distributive justice. For example, in India, we are distributive justice, we are for BPL people, from APL people, there are people who are getting some subsidies, they are in the healthcare, in the education, they are economically weaker section also getting some benefits. There is still, we are debating whether we should allow this type of trends or not, but we are allowing because we have constitutional norms to create a equity in the society. Again, we talked about social justice. Social justice then led to economic justice. Economic justice, there was a debate between neoliberals and Marxists. Marxists completely tried to abolish private property. They want to abolish the capitalistic mode of production. They want to nationalize the property and they want to distribute equally the economic wages and wanted to create a stateless and classless society. Then we have a debate in the syllabus that there should be a procedural debate, procedural and substantive justice. Then procedural justice said procedure should be maintained, there should be fair process, there should be a fair process and distribute burdens and duties and responsibility in a very transparent manner. That should be open to all. The procedures should not vary from people to people. That procedures demands fairness in the implementation of law. That says that all the people in the society should go and accept one particular procedure to reach the fairness. And then you can say procedural justice says that nobody should be punished for the same crime twice, and similar cases should be treated alike, and procedures should be fair and transparent to everyone, irrespective of class, gender, or there should be equality before the law. That equality, the state should not discriminate in that sense. All the party in dispute must be heard before any judgment is delivered. Next, the substantive justice we have already discussed regarding substantive justice is says about taking some positive step for the downtrodden, for the poor who are not able to reach to the justice level. Substantive theory of justice about the fair distribution of good like wealth, income, opportunity to all people despite of their different social position, economic status. Then you can go to substantive theory of justice is about fair distribution, and then we discussed about John Rawls theory John Rawls' theory says justice is the main virtue of any social institution, and there should be basic structure of the society should accordance with the social justice as fairness. And in that sense, he talked about three fair traditions, positions. He said there should be a situation where unjust condition might be come to your way, but you have to remain avoid those unjust condition. You have to hold the basic idea of distributive justice. Again, this idea comes from the Aristotelian view and social contract, and then it is implied in John Rawls' theory of justice. Then John Rawls' three principle of justice says that each person should have been given equal liberty. That is so simple that equality, as much as equality you are demanding, the same amount of as much as liberty you are demanding, the same amount of equality should be given to everyone. Then second, social economic inequality are to be arranged so that they are both to the greatest benefit of least advantage, and there should be minimum condition of things should be given to everyone in the society. There will also offer a fair model of choice where original opposition with a veil of ignorance, and which you can say the first blindfolded situation. And then came the idea of global justice, which talks about cosmopolitan view, which talks about individual stand on its moral standing on the basis of morality. We should share the problems of the globe. That poverty, global inequality are not inevitable. It came through certain political unfair means, and that should be eradicated, and everybody should be given with the idea that there should be equal treatment to each and everyone, irrespective of their nationality and culture. It talks about a cosmopolitan view, and it talks global justice. You can say is there can be four division of global justice. Five divisions of global justice: monetary justice, that every poor should be given with monetary help, irrespective of nationality, and there should be social justice on the basis of color, class, and caste should not be treated, and economic justice, and there should be environmental justice, and there should be peace. People are born to live in peace. They should not be treated as slaves or backward. Or maybe you can say they were from southern part of India world, or maybe a third world people. They should be treated as equally, and there should be sharing of revenue between various organizations. There will be North South Cooperation Forum in United Nations, and there are many dialogues between social movements coming throughout the world by global intergovernmental NGOs like Global Peace and activity Greenpeace. There were lots of different intergovernmental organizations working for this. And lastly, how we can conclude that the world, the idea of global justice desire a redistribution. It is again a distributive part of justice. Desire a redistribution of the global wealth between all the living beings of the world, irrespective of different nationality, caste, culture, and ideologies. There should not be differentiation between ideology, because we all belongs to a particular clan, that is human clan, that is human race. Its slogan is that Earth and all its resources are collectively owned by the whole humanity. Then we should conclude with the idea that justice should be fairer, justice should reach poorest of poor. Thank you for today's class. We'll be doing our next class on political theory tomorrow at same time. Thank you.